chiropractor, grocery store, Costco. Then we went to church last night.
You did? At Bible study or center or a different one?
To a different one called Countryside.
Is that any good?
Well, I liked it. Yeah, we went Sunday. Awful. I liked it. It's probably, it's a comfort zone. It's salted with all kinds of ages, which is kind of nice.
Right. Right.
Rather than just one age.
Sure.
You're trying to make me these. Like my ENT guy.
Yeah.
When I had my throat surgery.
Sit out on my couch.
Well, no, when I had my throat surgery, the surgeon was there and released me and so forth, and then the ENT, because he wanted the ENT there when he did surgery, he came in and he said, I was dressed. I mean, I was getting ready to leave.
I've never even seen it. Kristen hasn't even seen the movie.
We had to talk. He wanted to see if I was,
Right.
the windpipe was somewhat normal. Not really, but somewhat. It's all swollen, and he says it takes a long time for that to go down.
Really?
But it was he's a little younger than the other surgeon, and the other surgeon said he really wants to learn everything about throat surgery.
Yeah. I have a funny story. I was calling this doctor, okay, and he had a student with him, a med student. But it wasn't a med student. It was a junior high school student or something. So I thought maybe for a career day or something like that, this student was following this doctor around, and so go, oh hi, how you doing? To the junior high kid. I go, what grade are you in? He said, I'm a graduate student from blah 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 George Fox University. I go, what are you doing? He goes, he was going to be a med student, and he was actually a high school biology teacher. And he was just a young looking kid.
What you're bringing is, Torey, what I've already learned. As we get older, everybody looks younger.
Exactly.
Open mouth insert.
Yeah. So I was looking at this, and you were born in Buena Vista County, March 9th, 1932. On a farm. Were your parents farmers, or?
My mother was a school teacher. My father was one of 11, and they were farmers for a while.
Yeah.
Until he got married. He farmed a while, and he always was a very busy man. He went from a market to one of the largest grocery stores in Iowa, that type of thing.
Sure.
And during the war, he rented land, and during the war too.
Right.
I just specified that when he told me.
You know what? I don't want to interrupt you. I think we better go downstairs because of all the talking. It's gonna really mess this up. Is it working? I hope so. Get there. Don't have any information
I
there.
don't know.
Okay. So so you were saying you were born in Buena Vista County, Iowa?
Yes.
Is that the name? Is that a city, or is that the?
Buena Vista County. That's where I was born, out on the farm.
Right.
Dad's where I wouldn't say he was born. He probably was born there. The original farm, and then he stayed there till he was married, and then he went in and rented property, and things just grew. He opened a market, and then during the World War II, he rented land and raised 1,000 acres of produce, primarily potatoes. And he used to say, field-grade potatoes with dirt clods on them went for $1.50, $2 a 100 pounds before the war, and $10 during the war. And that's where he got his initials from. It didn't cost him anymore.
Yeah.
He had all the equipment and all the knowledge. He was one of 11 children, and there were a couple of gentleman, well, one particular farmer who was really interested in him because he had a very green thumb and he wanted to send him to Iowa State. But because he had brothers and sisters that couldn't go, he wouldn't
Right.
go either.
Right. Huh.
He just did his own thing.
Now your dad was Russell,
Russell Mark.
and your mom was Vivian Beatrice Nixon.
And or
Is
Olive.
that right?
It's and or Olive.
And or Olive.
Because it's Olive on her birth certificate.
Uh-huh.
But it was Vivian somewhere else.
Uh-huh. Sure.
So we're not just sure which. But I always knew her as Olive.
Yeah. So were you actually born on the farm?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
In fact, I finally found the birth certificate. The doctor that signed the birth certificate, because they do have to sign those when you're born on the farm.
I think the doctors have to sign any
He was-
certificate.
He was called 1 hour before I was born.
Really?
And that's the only medical care my mother had.
Wow. Wow. Huh.
That was the way they did things.
Yeah. So how many brothers and sisters?
I have one brother.
Uh-huh.
His name is Thomas R. Mark. I always called him Tommy, and everybody else called him Buddy.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I kind of refer to him as Tommy, yet he's 17 months younger than I am.
Okay. When's his birthday is
July.
July 9th?
July 31st.
July 31st, 1931, right?
No, I was born 32, so
Oh, March, though.
he had to be, he was 33. He's
Okay.
17 months younger.
Oh, younger, sorry. Yeah, I was going wrong way around. Sure. So, your mom, her dad was Claude. Now, did you know your grandparents?
Yes, I did. In fact, when my mother and dad were divorced, I was 5. And my grandmother and grandfather lived on a farm about 12 miles away from us, and I spent a lot of time with them.
Now, was that the grandparents Nixon or Mark?
Well, I spent a lot of time with both, but most primarily Nixon.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Grandpa had already died when I was, he hadn't. He didn't die till I was 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa Mark.
Right.
I barely remember him.
Yeah.
I knew he sat in a chair and he was German. He had a mustache.
Really?
About all I.
Yeah. You so did you grow up your whole life in on the farm?
No.
Or?
I think they moved to Storm Lake when I was probably. I don't think I was a year old.
Storm Lake, Iowa, or okay.
Which was I don't know 15, 18 miles from where I was born.
Is that because he didn't want to do the farming anymore? Or?
No, I think he probably found a farm to rent easily, and then he bought a section of land and with a farmhouse and the animals. I mean the outside buildings, the barn, the chicken house, the pig house, whatever else you had to have. And then he continued. He went into the war, so because 32 was when I was born. Then when the war started, he just kept expanding, growing produce.
Okay.
And then when he opened the market, it was also a Standard Oil gas station.
Huh.
With the old, where you pump they're long cylinders and you pumped it like this.
Right.
And then he used to he would drive to Georgia for peaches, Michigan for apples, somewhere else he was a connoisseur of produce.
Right.
Never came west, but
Right.
Watermelons. We used to have watermelon feeds. He'd get an old wagon, and as soon as I was old enough, I'm out there cutting and serving free watermelon.
Really. Really.
We had Aunt Jemima there one year making pancakes, giving them away.
The company Aunt Jemima, or?
Aunt Jemima, a black lady.
Real? She's a real lady?
Well, I'm sure at that time they probably promoted that and had different women but they would always look just like her. And there was a lot of the, they're quite collectible now, the salt and pepper shakers and the, would you go away?
No, I won't.
And what else? Different things depicting, which you don't have anymore.
Right.
Kind of like the little black Sambo. They had little black Sambo restaurants in California. I don't know where else they were.
Right.
They abolished those too.
Yeah. So that was during World War II that your father was doing the whole. It sounds like he was a wholesale foods, or it was actually a storefront.
He had a market. He had a
market.
small market with a gas station and the old pop cooler. You lifted the lids, and then my brother, our house was just a small walk from the station, and my brother used to, we had a big yard to play in, and he used to stand out there, I want my daddy,
Yeah.
so he could have pop.
Yeah.
I always wanted pop, which made he want something to drink, he didn't want it. And he sold different produce at different times of the year. And then I can remember, we also made apple cider, because he always had so many apples. And we had whatever it took to make apple cider, a peeler, there was a machine, and there was a press. It was a cider press. Get down at the market, and we used to make that. And one of my first memories is I remember the press and we always wore snowsuits in the wintertime because it snowed a lot. When we were down there, Dad had us down there. We were probably making a snowman, and the glass from the bottles were often broken, and left there. And one cut through my snowsuit and cut my knee. That's one of my first memories of that kind of thing going on. Then as I got a little older, and Dad raised us. My mother left us.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, and we had.
How old were you when she?
5.
Oh, okay.
My brother was 3 and a half, and we had. We'd have nannies and hired girls and housekeepers because we cooked for hired men.
Yeah.
They helped farm, and then somebody had to take care of these 2 darling children.
Yeah.
And
you were 5 when he left, and then
when she left. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, when she left. Sorry.
So then I was in 30 to 41. I would have been 9.
Yeah.
And I can remember during some of those times. Well, but prior to that, really, because 39 things were tight. There was what was that called? Some road camp that guys worked on to earn food. Things were really. There were soup lines, soup kitchens, and so forth. And it was really bad. But Dad was always very generous, and he would. Maybe some of these guys had worked for him at different times, and they were on thin rations. They would come out and he'd do a day's work, and he always gave them a week's worth of food.
Really? Sounds like your dad was a good guy.
He was. Well, of course, I always thought he was extremely special.
Yeah.
He never fell off the pedestal.
Yeah.
And he died. When he died, and I went through the old desk upstairs, there were a lot of checks in there from people that I knew.
Yeah. That
came and were returned, and he just shoved them in the back.
He didn't want to be repaid. Wow.
It just was his. That was his thing.
Yeah.
And he was a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
But he did always read to us. We both, one on one side, one on the other. And he would read to us. And then I can also remember, he liked apple green.
Mm-hmm.
And he painted our chairs, our youth chairs, which were metal, and they had little curved backs. But I was here, my brother was here. He spread our bread and butter and cut up our meat. And he probably did that till we were 10 or 11 years old. So, they didn't have it, and it was like this.
Right.
It's funny.
Yeah.
When you think back about it.
Sure. Huh. Did you go to church growing up?
Mm-hmm. My stepmother, the woman who became my stepmother, came to us probably, I was going on 6.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was a hard time. She had gone to secretarial school. She was from Missouri, and she couldn't find a job, and the minister in the Assembly of God Church, which we were kind of affiliated with, and Dad knew real well, said he knew somebody that would come and take care of the children. So Thelma came, and she came, and Dad paid her $5 a week when she first started. She had all the privileges of everything, you know, she didn't pay for anything. The car you can drive, the kids you take care of, and you cook and you clean and you do whatever.
Yeah.
And then eventually she got to $6 a week, and then sometime I can remember she got to $10 a week. But she saved her money. She was engaged when she came up there, and he was killed in a car accident. And she saved her money and built her mother a house in Missouri. It cost all of $3,500. And they were married. My mother and dad, Mom and Dad got married when I was in high school. I think I was a freshman.
Now you consider her.
I always called her Mom.
You called her Mom. Okay, yeah.
I always called her Mom because she was not my birth mother, but
No.
she took care of us.
Yeah.
Through everything, you know, all the illnesses and all the. My mother, I've always called Mother.
Sure.
I affiliated with both
Yeah.
of them.
What was your mom's full name?
Thelma Fryer.
Okay. Do you know when or where she was born, or?
She had to be born in Brookfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
I don't know much. I knew her mother and her dad, but I don't know much historically about
Right.
Grandma,
Come here.
I was called Bessie Grandma. Grandma Bessie worked in Brown Shoe Factory in Brookfield, Missouri for 51 years. And he was a coal miner till he broke his shoulder probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Then he became a transit
Sure.
harvester.
Oh.
He wound up coming to Iowa, and Dad gave him a job, and he managed our apartment house.
Okay.
So he got very old.
So when you moved to Storm Lake, you're about I'm guessing 12.
9 months old. 9 months.
Oh, 9 months.
Have a baby.
Oh, okay.
I have pictures of that. That's when because I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember the farmhouse at
Okay.
all.
But you do remember working in the marketplace.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, Dad built me a counter and a box to stand on, and then he taught me how to run the cashier.
Forgive me if I ask like redundant questions or something,
That's
because
right.
I don't know any of this, so I'm just trying to get a
No.
handle on it.
And I got all the
Yeah.
I got all the good jobs,
Yeah.
like sorting moldy strawberries and peaches
And so you grew up then
in the grocery store.
in the grocery store. How long?
I-
All the way until you
Oh,
moved
yeah,
away?
he-
Or?
Yeah, he sold it in 51.
And
50, maybe 50, because I think he died in 51.
yeah.
He should have never sold it, but he died of a brain tumor, so we can't say that killed him, but it broke his heart. He did not want it. Was not his thing to sell that store.
Yeah.
But somehow or another, sometimes we say God is pushing us, because he died of a brain tumor in 51. So.
Yeah.
Another thing that he liked to do,
Yeah.
he used to go to Canada and go hunting,
Mhm.
and he would bring back elk and deer and something else, some other big animal.
Moose, maybe.
Moose, yeah, it was, and bring that back, and he would get a big, or he probably had it built, a big barbecue, and that was another thing I got to do, was give away free moose burgers, but they had all the different meats in them. He just loved to do that. He would drift in and out, but somebody else was always doing the work.
So you went to school. Let's see, where'd you go to grade school?
North School in Storm Lake,
Mhm.
and then the junior high in Storm Lake, and graduated from the high school in Storm Lake.
Storm Lake High School. Do you remember what high school class you were in?
What do you mean?
Class of
1950.
1950. um, so, so all through World War II, you worked through the at the store,
Sometimes.
and then when you graduated from high school, what happened after
When
that?
I graduated from high school, we took a long driving trip. My brother, my stepmother, and I. My brother and I scrapped all the time in the back seat. When we went to Chicago, Niagara Falls, all the eastern states, came down to D.C., and Dad had had enough, and he said, Tommy, you're going home. Took him to the airport and sent him home.
What?
Because he was fighting with me, and it was my graduation gift.
Your graduation, you take this big trip across the United States,
and my brother was.
Tommy was being a
well, we scrapped all the time.
Oh, really?
We always did.
Yeah.
You know, we're 17 months apart.
Yeah.
It was a thing we did.
Yeah.
And he always thought I was Dad's favorite, and I probably was. He got away with murder as far as I was concerned. But, you know, Dad, he always called me Nani. I mean, I never asked for anything out of that was unreasonable.
Yeah.
So I asked God everything I wanted.
Yeah.
And my brother saw it differently.
Yeah.
You know.
The spoiled one.
He kind of, you know, he would do things he shouldn't do and get in trouble. And
so he had a lot of, sometimes he had resentment.
And yeah, I'm sure he had a little problem with that. I think also my mother wasn't real happy when she got pregnant with him.
Oh.
So, you know, it
kind of
carries over.
Yeah, but she left when you were 5, so I don't think he probably remembered too much about his mom.
Well, the thing of it is that Mother would come back to the grandparents, which were not that far away. And
they were also farmers, the Nixons?
Yeah. And the Nixons, that Grandma and Grandpa would try to get us on the farm if she knew Mother was going to come back. If Dad found out, he snatched us away and sent us somewhere else. We were used for pawns for quite a few years. And then after high school, Mother thought I should come to college in California, because that's where she lived. And I didn't. It was a big disappointment to her. And then my brother, which war was that? Korea?
Had been Korea War.
Korea War. He was in the Army. He went down with a couple of the other boys, and they enlisted together so they could be together, they thought.
Yeah.
And after that, he came to California and spent some time with Mother. So, you know, she was in and out of our life, but we wrote, she called.
Yeah.
But sometimes there were large gaps.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, when I was in the 6th grade, we went to, my grandparents had moved to Oregon, Eugene.
Huh.
And
the Nixons?
They farmsteaded that. You could farmstead then.
Yeah.
And they came out here and farmsteaded, and they lived in Eugene. And we stayed a summer there, and my mother was out here. And she took us to an attorney, or primarily me, and the attorney, or maybe the judge, I'm not sure which one now, talked to us and, or talked to me, and he asked me if I would like to live with my mother, and of course I said yes.
How old were you then?
I was going into 6th grade, I think, going 11 or 12.
Okay.
And I said yes, and then I said, but what about my brother? Oh no, he's going to stay with your dad, and I said, then I'll go home with my dad.
Yeah.
We've been together too long by that time.
Yeah. Were they, did she just leave, or did they actually get a divorce?
Well, they got a divorce eventually.
Okay.
You don't want to record what I really did. What they really did.
Whatever you want to say. Whatever.
No, I've told my children, it is not a big secret, that my mother and Dad probably could have made twice the money that Dad made. And he did well.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were both very, very business type people and hardworking and so forth.
Yeah.
But she was not happy.
Yeah. Huh.
And she left with one of our hired men.
Yeah.
And my father had to go tell one of our hired men, wife Eva, who was working in a tomato patch, that Kenny had left with Olive.
Yeah.
And they took me with them.
Oh.
And then my dad started looking for me. Found out where I was, and I'm not sure how he found me, but he sent my uncle out to get me.
Mhm.
And mother brought me back, and then Dad said something like, "If you work through the harvest, I'll give you your." Goddamn.
Yeah. Well, you know,
and that's it was very. In our circumstances, my town was not that big, but everybody knew Dad. Everybody knew Mother Mark.
Yeah.
It was we were well respected, etc. But when I went to school, one of the things I heard on the school ground was, "Nah, nah, 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 you don't have a mother."
Really?
You don't hear those kind of things today.
Yeah.
That's how the world has really changed.
You know, I was just gonna say just kind of the opposite. It seems like after talking to my grandmother and interviewing my other grandparents that, you know, everybody says everything's different today, but after talking to you guys, you still have the same problems and the same issues and the same kind of, all the challenges that we did, and nothing's really changed. I'm learning. That's
just has a little different edge to it. That's about all.
So
it kind of, to me, as the world goes, we go around.
So after high school, you took your trip with your parents, and then.
And we came back, and I wanted to go. What did I do? I think some of my friends wanted to go. We got jobs at Lake Okoboji, and Donna, you could come.
Is that in Iowa?
Yeah.
Okay, Lake what?
It's Okoboji.
Okoboji, okay.
It's just a kind of like a resort.
Okay.
It was a fun place to go. And they were going to work in a restaurant and all camp out together, you know. My father said, "No, you're not. I don't want you to work this summer."
Yeah.
Always before we had to work. We had to work every Saturday. I know that's the only day I worked. I went to school. And going to school then was, our school started at 8:45 to get out to 4:05. That's not the way it is anymore.
No.
So you didn't really have a whole lot of
It's a
time
lot shorter
to find a job.
Yeah.
And I never had it. We just worked on Saturday.
Mhm.
Sometimes I worked from 8 o'clock in the morning until 11 at night because he didn't close the store till 12.
Wow.
But then anyway, he said, "I don't want you to work this summer." Well, it was kind of dull. At the time, I was dating a kid in college, so he was going home. Everybody's working. Everybody's off somewhere. You know, what am I going to do? But so I just primarily prepared. We went shopping. Dad and I went to Chicago. We went to Kansas City. He used to go to Kansas City to do to buy things and negotiate. And, Chicago to buy. I don't know, what did he buy in Chicago? We went to Chicago to buy things. I can remember because my father was not a real tall man, kind of round, and I can remember when we went to Chicago one time on a buying trip, he wore his bibbed overalls and his high-top shoes and went out, probably to the stockyards. We might have been buying animals, meat, probably. Anyway, he did his negotiating, and then he went to the bank to get the money, and he just walks into a bank and he says, "I want, $10,000. The banker looks at this man like, "Where did you come from?" And he says, "Well, all you have to do is call Harry Shaler in the store, Mike, he'll give it to you." He said, "It's okay." So he would dial and to give him the money.
Huh.
It was always fun.
Yeah.
Always fun. And then he'd always say to me when we were there, sometimes we went to a grocery, and then he dressed a little better, a grocery convention, and he would say, "Is there anything you want that your mother won't let you have?" Meaning my stepmother. Because as I grew older, my stepmother and I competed just a hair, which is somewhat natural.
Yeah.
It just does seem to be that way for his attention. So and I'd say, "Well, yeah, I want a pair of red." I can remember one thing. I want a pair of red snakeskin shoes, and I found them. And she had a fit when I got home. I really like it. And then I went to McMurray College in Illinois, which is at McMurray College for Women in Jacksonville, Illinois.
What did you decide to
What did I
study?
decide to do? Well, I didn't stay there long enough to do.
Oh.
No,
Did you have a major or?
Well, what I was going to do was be a dietitian.
Okay.
That was what I was interested in
Sure.
at the time.
Uh-huh.
Chemistry and I didn't get along too well,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
I primarily was a straight A student.
So you stayed there for a year, about a year. Okay. So you did your freshman year at McMurray.
At Mac, and then I got married, and I ran away and got married in Minnesota in Bermuda.
Now, okay, hold on. You're going a little too fast here. Now you met. Who did you meet?
Oh, I knew Dale Horner, the
Dale
children's father.
You met Dale Horner, and you met him where?
Well, he used to come to the store.
Oh, he came to the store, not at the college.
No,
You
no.
met him at the store.
Yeah, well, he was a salesman that
Oh.
called on Dad.
Okay, were you dating him
No.
before you? Okay.
My mom and dad, mom used to sit at the, we had a lunch counter in the store.
Uh-huh.
And as we got older, the meals at home were next to nothing
Uh-huh.
because we were eating differently and doing differently things and so forth. Anyway, she'd say, why don't you go with him? He's a nice looking man.
Uh-huh.
I thought he was too old.
Was he good looking?
Yeah. His picture's in the room. You
Is
can
it?
see
Okay.
He's the blind man in the wall
Okay.
of fathers.
Yeah, he is older than you. Yeah. So, did you start dating when you were in college, or?
No, what happened is I dated he after the prom. After the senior prom, he picked me up,
Uh-huh.
and I went with him then, and maybe to a movie in the summertime.
Yeah.
And I went to college, and then he came down to see me at
Yeah.
school.
And then you got serious, and
And then we got married.
you got married in. When did you get married? December 31st, 1950. Yeah. Where did you get married?
Well, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I know we went to Bermuda, which is the northern part, but where the city we were married. I can't even tell you who stood up with us,
Yeah.
but it was friends of his.
Okay.
And
Very
I started taking things out of the house. I went downtown and bought a white suit, a navy pair of shoes, a navy scarf.
Mhm.
I can remember all that. And I'd take them out and I had a big school jacket that was green and white, and I'd take them to my girlfriend's house.
Very good.
My parents were not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So where did you first live?
Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Yeah. And what did he do?
He was a sales rep.
Sales rep. Okay.
When you'd leave one company and go to another.
Yeah.
And you left one town and went to another.
Yeah. Hmm.
And eventually, 14 years, 4 children later,
You were married for 14 years.
and
Yeah.
he was an alcoholic.
He was. Yeah, I think I remember. I think Kim told me that because when I was talking to her.
Because she has a different memory of her dad.
Sure. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I was talking to my grandma and talking about her dad, but my mom has different memories of her grandfather, and she was, because she really, loved her grandfather so much, but my grandma remembers her father as much more hard, more strict and stuff like that. So, let's see, for 14 years, then you had Kim and Dale and Tony,
It's in the
Dana.
garage.
I didn't seen it before.
You've never seen it before?
When did you? Then you met,
I divorced Dale.
divorced,
Him in Fort Dodge.
and then you met Rex.
Yeah, I was still living in Fort Dodge. I lived in Fort Dodge for a year,
Uh huh.
just to prove to myself that I could.
Uh huh.
Because filing for divorce and at the time, filed for it in December. At the time, we had a circuit. These are really old.
Yeah.
Circuit judge in Iowa,
Uh-huh.
not a regular court thing.
Right.
So I had to wait till the circuit judge was going to come, depending on the ice and snow. So the attorney called me on the 14th of February
Right.
and said, "We can go to court today." So I went over, and of course he didn't even appear. So that took care of that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was interesting to me, I wanted sole custody of the children.
Yeah.
He didn't even answer that. I got sole custody of
Yeah.
the children. That was the most important thing to me at the time. But I always, it was like the world was lifted off my shoulder. And then I began to feel that I need to crawl out of this hole in the ground
Oh, yeah.
that he had put, that I felt he had put me.
Sure.
And
Yeah, where your
so I
toys
wanted
are.
to stay in the same
No, it's gone.
surroundings.
Do you know where my skateboard is?
Did you work? Were you working or?
I was working for
Were,
RB
were,
Clark, a Buick Motors,
Let's go find it. Show me.
Buick dealership.
were you working when you were married though? At all or?
I'm trying to remember. Not very much.
Okay. And then you started working for the Buick dealer.
Yeah, I
After
worked
your
off and
divorce.
on, but not. It depends on where I worked. I did go to work for Safeway in Texas.
Sure.
Before I had Dale or Dana.
Oh.
I did work for Safeway.
So you guys, you moved around because of his
All
sales
the
job.
time.
That's-
Well, because of the nature of his nature.
Yeah.
Because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, follow your husband.
Yeah.
I learned that that's
Moving
not
around.
always the best thing to do.
Sure. Yeah. Well.
Ah.
So then you were working at the dealership, and then you had 4 kids that you're supporting by yourself,
Right.
and then
My mother kept calling me and said, why don't you come to California?
Yeah.
Well, if you spent that winter, that first winter in California, and the duplex we were living in was on a corner, scooping ice and snow, and if you didn't get it done in time, the neighbor would call the city and say she hasn't scooped it off, and buying 4 pairs of boots and 4 winter coats, California sounded pleasing.
so you moved in with your real mother or your biological mother, Vivian, and did you meet Rex right away or?
No. Mother took care of the children and I went to work as soon as I could. I met Rex we were married in November '68. I probably met him the tail end of '67. His wife died in '68. My, mother's husband, or my stepfather, which I never considered him as, he was a nice friend. Because I've known Kenny since I was 3 years old. Yeah, it was
Right.
just a difficult situation.
Yeah.
But he belonged to the VFW, the veterans, and he always wanted me to go down there because they had meetings that were called Parents Without Partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, you could meet some nice people. So I went down there, and it afforded the opportunity to do things with other single people and their children.
Right.
And that's primarily what I did. I met Rex there in a discussion group, and I thought, this man doesn't know what he's talking about. But he was a Capricorn, and he was very, he just persevered.
Yeah.
Kept turning up on my doorstep. So eventually, what happened was I'd go to Parents Without Partner, because he worked 2 jobs. He would show up, and he'd say, I haven't eaten yet. And I'd say, which restaurant do you want to go to? So we would go somewhere and sit and talk, and our values were our children. His wife had died, and I was divorced. And I also think in the back of his mind, he thought, this poor woman with 4 children needs to be rescued. But our similarities...
Well, he had 3 of his own. Two, sorry, yeah.
But I think our values and our backgrounds were somewhat similar. Turns out his mother and dad were born in Iowa. He was born in Hollywood, but it's, those are the kind of things that you talk about, your backgrounds and what's important to you. Children don't ask to be placed in the families they're placed in, so he and I both felt that we should do whatever we could for them, but one day he said, well, you and I are going to be married, and I said, you're out of your mind, man. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. At the time I was going somebody else. As far as dating anyone, you know. He and I were just friends.
Yeah.
And I called him one time. I'd taken a job with Harbor General Hospital, and there was a party, and I thought, oh. And I was kind of in the supervisor position, and I thought, I have to have a date. So I called Rex, and I said, this is a party, kind of like a potluck, bring your own bottle, it's in Long Beach, you want to go? Oh, sure, I'll go. So I taught him how to drink scotch and water. And then, I don't know, he wasn't going to get, we were both saying, he wasn't going to get married, I wasn't going to get married. He was going to remodel his house, I was going to look for another house to move out, and, you know, we were just, this is where we were at. And one day he called me at work and he said, I made an appointment with, now they're not, we were talking about getting married.
Yeah.
I've made an appointment with a realtor on Sunday. Do you want to go? And I thought, this ought to be interesting. So he picked me up and we went, parked in front of the real estate office, and he said, do you want to go in or do you want to go to the beach? I said, oh, well, we might as well go all the way. And we found a house, and from there on we decided to get married. And he put his house up for sale.
And where was this house that you
his
bought?
house, the house in Downey where we live.
You bought a house in Downey. Yeah.
We got married. The kids were all in our
Sounds like
wedding.
the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Oh, actually, before we got married, we went to see, was it the Brady Bunch? Was he in the name? Which one? No. Lucille Ball and,
I Love Lucy?
no, but it was Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't the Brady Bunch? Dozen. What was it? Something about the dozen. He was in the Navy, and there were 11 or 12 kids. Anyway, I think of that movie. I thought I'd never forget the name of it. We went to the movie, come across the street, the parking lot coming out. He looked at me, and I looked at him. Now, we'd already decided we were going to get married, and I said, there will be no hours. We have enough.
Yeah.
And so it was, he had a vasectomy, and it was so funny because he had such a difficult time. And in between, I'm having other kind of problem, and had gone to the doctor and had to have a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to worry about having ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
We liked our kids, but
Yeah. So they all grew up together. Everybody was together. Now I kind of understand a little bit better about the relationship between Kim and Craig, and how Craig's now friends with.
Well, the kids were
With
all
Steve.
Yeah, the kids were all.
Because Steve was, you grew up all. Now you were in the same house in Downey.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the kids were all in the wedding, and we were married in the church, and we wrote most of our own vows, and the littlest one that was 5, I'm not sure it made a big impression on, but the rest of them, I think, it was a good foundation to United Family. I've had a lot of people talk to me and ask me, how did you do it?
Yeah.
And I said, I just bend my head and do things. And his brother, Rex's wife died in, I'm going to say, May. His mother died a couple of months later, same year, 66. And his brother's wife died a couple of months after that.
Okay. Wow.
So Rex's brother, Morris, was going to be his best man in our wedding. At our rehearsal dinner, he said, well, if you can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting married February 14th.
Wow.
So we were married in November, and his dad, who lived in Yucaipa, came in to stay with us, to go to Morris's wedding. He never left.
Yeah.
I
There's
said,
a lot going on with Rex during that time. I mean, gosh.
he was, it was a big thing for him because he didn't have a big family. He didn't have a lot of relatives out here at all. And it was, Craig will say that his dad was not sociable, and he'll crank around about it, Well, Dad used to go to the bedroom, Well, he was in over his head sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we always had a lot of people around.
I remember, I remember Rex was really pretty quiet. He was pretty quiet and laid back.
Well, for one thing,
Remember
he has very good one-on-one relationships, but Rex had a hearing problem from birth that was never taken care of. I talked him into hearing aids later on, but I think that makes some difference. He can't, if you were in a crowd tonight, he would find a place to be
Sure.
with one person because he
Yeah.
can't hear anything when he's in a crowd.
Yeah.
So, but and
What did he do in
he
Downey?
worked for ICX,
ICX?
Illinois Central Express trucking firm.
Okay. What did he do?
You know, it was a union job, and I never paid too much attention. It was something in accounting.
He wasn't a driver.
No. He was an inside
Okay.
person. He worked with women all the time.
Yeah, there must be something with that. You would have said, you said like,
Well,
you didn't say like he worked with office personnel or he worked
No.
with secretaries. No, you said he worked with women.
Well, he did. It was a union job, and we don't want to talk about unions.
Yeah.
But I had a real problem with it.
Yeah.
When I went to California, I met somebody in PWP who worked for the sheriff's department, and she said, I could probably get you online, and the sheriff's department made pretty good money. And I went down and checked it all out, and I saw people, and I watched the hoops you go through, and I told her, I said, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I said, I work and want to be judged by how I work.
Yeah.
I don't want to be step 1, step 2, step 3.
Sure.
And Rex's work was the same way. You'd go into his office, and this lady would be asleep at her desk. And this one didn't do much, and I just had a problem with that, that's why I say women.
Yeah. Okay.
He had a real good friend called Mary, who was a tiny little thing, and when she walked, her heels always clicked, but she was a real good friend.
Sure.
And we had office parties and stuff, it was fun.
Yeah. So did you work at all?
Was I working then?
Yeah, when Rex was working for ICX or?
When Rex and I were married, I was working for Harbor General Hospital. Then I worked for orthopedic surgeons in Long Beach until one day we went to breakfast and he must listen to me complain.
Was that a pretty good commute to go from Downey to Long Beach?
What is it, 16 miles down the freeway?
All right. I guess the traffic wasn't as bad.
Oh no, nothing like today.
Yeah. And Downey was a nice, pretty nice city.
And I worked the opposite direction of what the traffic was. And then he decided one day that I could quit, so we went to he said, "Do you have your keys?" I said, "Yes." He drove up to my office, went inside, took down all my stuff from my office, and I left, resigned. Then I went to work for the country club.
Right.
And I worked there till we left down.
Yeah. So did you keep in contact with your mom, Vivian?
All that time? Oh,
Yeah.
She moved to Arizona when my mother wasn't happy when I got married.
Oh, really?
My parents weren't happy the first time. My mother wasn't happy the second time. My mother and Rex were probably came out of the same mold.
Oh.
But she was very, I think it was, you're taking the children away from me.
Oh.
And we had a few problems for a while. I had to go over one day and pound my fist on her wash machine and say, "Mother, if you don't quit talking about Rex to my children, you will not see my children." And she eventually, Kenny wanted to retire, and he retired early, and they moved to Arizona, Mesa.
So did Kim know Vivian?
Olive?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Olive. Okay.
My mother used to, Grandma Sure is what they call it, Grandma Sure.
Grandma Sure.
That's her last name.
Oh, okay.
And she used to sew for them, make their clothes.
Okay.
Cook,
Yeah.
spoil them that way.
Yeah.
And shopping.
Sure.
Used to take them camping. They did a lot with them.
Yeah. So,
Don't ask Dale, but
how living in Downey? How long did you live in Downey?
17 or 18 years.
And then where'd you move to?
when I left Downey.
Is that when you moved to Canyon Lake?
We sold our house.
Uh-huh.
We traveled for a little while.
Is that the
Then
Rex
I landed
retired?
up in Elsinore. Yeah.
He retired after 17 years
He
of working
didn't.
with
He
Rex.
didn't retire. The company closed.
Oh, okay.
He was close to retirement. It was very upsetting at the time.
Yeah.
What did we do? We went to Mesa. I didn't want to live in Mesa. We looked at property and things there, but I did not want to live in Mesa. It's too hot. Does not cool down at night.
Mm-hmm.
And Dale was living in Lake Elsinore, and she called me and she said, "Mom, there's a Hallmark store for sale here, and you've always wanted one." And that's how I made some phone calls, and that's how I got to
That's how you got to.
Canyon Lake.
What year? Do you remember what year about?
1986.
Okay. So you've had that store for
19 years.
19 years. And did Rex run the store at all, or is it just this was your thing?
No, Rex was there every day. He was there sometimes more than I was.
Yeah.
Not at first, but
Right.
sometimes.
Now you lived in Lake Elsinore, or
No. I stayed with Dale. Dale lived in Lake Elsinore, and we stayed with them for 2 or 3 months, and then not that long, maybe a month and a half. And he worked nights, and then we moved to the motel, and we were buying property, and we stayed at the motel in Canyon Lake.
Now, is
3
this
months.
the Hallmark store? Is this the same location store, or
No.
was it a different shopping mall? Or-
It's a different strip center.
Mm-hmm.
We moved across the freeway.
Okay. Okay.
We moved in 2000 after Rex died.
Okay. You know what? I do remember. You know, it's funny because the Hallmark store where it is now, when we went by it, I thought this doesn't look right to me. It looks a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I
That's
remember
right,
it was
across on
farther.
the other side of the
All right,
freeway,
that
behind the
explains
Bank
it.
of America.
Okay, that explains it. Yeah.
We were there, what, 86 till 90, through 86 to 99.
So that the house when you moved to Canyon Lake, that's the house that you are now in Canyon Lake. That's
It was
the same
just
house.
under construction when we bought it.
Yeah. So I'm sure you saw a lot of construction that's been going on through the
Oh
years.
yeah, Canyon Lake's really, well, there's so much going on now. It's amazing, Kim's showing me all the things that are going on here, but it's a drop in the bucket.
Sure. Sure.
Well, you know how the traffic is down there.
Yeah. So has Canyon Lake always been a gated community?
It was started out as a second home way back when everybody had to have these little getaways,
Mm-hmm.
and they primarily started with those mobiles, but fabricated houses, which were like 2-bedroom, 1-bath.
Right.
There's a few around there with a lot of additions.
Yeah.
And then it's just skyrocketed.
One thing I had in my notes I was going to try to clarify. Your grandparents, Nixon, Nellie Mae Williams. Is it Williams or Williamson?
Williamson.
It is Williamson. Okay.
I had to clarify that with my aunt.
Yeah.
See, I never knew.
Craig has it down as Williams, and then I had typed it somewhere from somewhere as Williamson. Okay, good. Let's see, and do you know your great grandparents by chance? Did you ever? Let's see here. Let's just go back here. There's Vivian. Goes Claude, Nixon. Did you?
Claude and Nellie are my grandparents.
Right. Did you know Claude's parents
No.
at all? Do you know where? Let's see. He was born in Wisconsin. I can see that's down here. And then Vivian, her mom Nellie. She was born in South Dakota, so she's from South Dakota.
I've kind of forgotten that.
Yeah.
That's a.
Did you know it? These her parents?
No.
And on this side, the Mark family.
Family Grandpa Mark saw. mean, my grandparents, my dad's parents, is
Yeah.
all I ever knew.
Yeah.
Because Grandma came from Illinois,
Mhm.
and my Aunt Lola, which is number one child, I think, of theirs, tried to do all the ancestors, what are the geology books or something.
Yeah.
She tried to do one of those years ago. In fact, I've got one probably in her trunk.
Oh.
They could not trace my grandfather.
Oh, really?
All I could ever find that he walked into Illinois.
Yeah.
And he was older than my grandmother he was double,
Really?
maybe more. I think he was 35 and she was 16 when they were married.
Really?
Something like
Well,
that.
that's a spread.
Yeah. So, and then of course, we use our hands to tell. My dad did all the time. And Grandpa Marx was William Mark, but they're not sure because they always called him the Russian Jew. So we don't know whether any of that's true or not. I always said he was German.
Mark sounds German to me.
Yeah, I've always said it was German.
That's a German name.
It's just kind of like a, family humor.
Yeah. So I said I had 3 questions for you,
Yeah.
and I wanted to ask you what you reflect upon your life and what we've talked about. What do you think that stands out as something that you're most proud of?
My children.
The children. Yeah.
And the fact that, we did survive and that we have,
You went
my
through some
children.
hard times,
Yeah.
and it seems like you really.
My children are,
Yeah.
They're very important to me. I've enjoyed them and they're very important to me.
What do you think when you look back again? God, I wish I could change this, or I wish I would have done this or that. Is there anything
Well, I
that
thought
you
about
kinda
that.
wish that you would have done
I thought
differently?
about that this afternoon, and I
Uh-huh.
thought about that before. But again, different thoughts come to mind, and I've thought about it, but really it wouldn't change anything.
Wouldn't change a thing.
I'm here now, and I trying daily to grow spiritually in that.
Yeah.
And you get here by all the things as you come down your road of life.
Right.
And I'm, older than. I think when you're younger, you might be able to reach back and want to do something, because I probably did at one time.
Yeah. But now you
No,
look
because
back,
a lot of you'd be amazed, but many of my peers have a strong support group of widows, and we talk about that. Wouldn't change a thing. Wouldn't go backwards.
Yeah. Is
It's
this
funny.
your group? That's that's with your church that you're.
Church, and I have a strong support group of just widows in Canyon Lake.
Yeah, I do know that about you that church is very important to you, and your faith in God is very important. I do know that.
And I had that very young. And I wandered away just like a lot of people do, but you come back.
Did you
It doesn't-
raise Kim and the girls that
The
way?
girls started in the Assembly of God, but if you ask them, they don't think I did. But they went to Sunday school, and they were in, their grandmother saw that they went and so forth. Yeah, my children sometimes, as all children do, don't necessarily give you any credit. There's some years where you wonder why you're their mother, but
Yeah.
I know what I did, and I don't regret anything. I don't live my life on regret.
Right. Very
I
good.
just don't. And they had exposure. Dana is the one that child went to Assembly of God, Mormon. She went through Mormonism. She wanted, we went to church. She begged us to go to church, so we did. And they came to visit us. I had this large picture, big as those curtains. And my husband loved pictures of women. And I'd seen this picture one time. I said, I'd like that. It's peach colored, but if you look at it, it's nude.
Oh, really?
Those Mormons could keep their eyes off it. It was kind of funny. And then she became a Catholic. She was baptized in the
Really?
Catholic church. And now she's Gun-Ho in Calvary Chapel.
Calvary. Okay.
So when she was going, she had a girlfriend that was Catholic, and she was going to catechism they go to, and the nun called me up one day, and she said, "Mrs. Douglas, do you know that Dana?" And Dana always used the Douglas name. he didn't adopt her because Dale was alive and he wouldn't sign papers. But she always used the Douglas name. And she said, do you know that your daughter Dana is coming to catechism? And I said, yes. And, well, how do you feel about that? And I said, what's more important, how do you feel about it? Well, and that kind of, you know. And I said, well, I'll give you a little background. I said, this is my second marriage and I am divorced. And his wife had died. And he went to school to be a Baptist minister. And I was raised in the Assembly of God. And we have a strong faith in our God. But we do believe our children need to find what they need to hang on to.
Yeah.
And so if this is what she wants to do, it's okay with her.
Yeah.
Because we had talked about it. And I would never say you can't go to that church, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Sure.
I would just never do that. And there are a lot of changes today in religion.
Yeah.
A lot of breakaways, a lot of expansions.
There is.
And I think you need to find something that satisfies your needs.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I even have said you don't have to go to church to believe in God. I mean, I find it very satisfying now. It's one of the things. Rex and I tried to go every Sunday. We'd go to church, go to breakfast, and go open the store. And it was the one time that we were sitting next to each other. We might be holding hands. You're physically communing, but there's no phones ringing. There's no one talking to you. It's just it's something that,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't want to discontinue, even though I go by. And I often go just by myself.
Yeah.
I don't have to call somebody up and say, well, would you put on your purple dress and go to church with me? I don't have to do that. I like to commune with God, and if other people don't want to, so be it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't judge you if you don't want to. I have a good friend that I say periodically, are you ready to go to church with me? No. I'll go with you next week. And she's religious, but not enough to go every week. She'd rather read the paper or do the crossword puzzle.
All right.
Fine. She's an Iowan. I just am drawn to people from Iowa. So funny.
Shoot. I saw Jaden come down, and it reminds me of our last question I wanted to ask you. Of course, you have so much more experience than all of us. What would you say to Jaden and her children? What advice about life?
I haven't changed. I've given a lot to my own children. I don't think they listen.
No, they do. But trust me.
No, I mean when they were,
Sure.
Well, for instance, when Kim graduated from high school, we had a little party at the house. She and Steve left. And I don't know whether they came back that night, but it was very close to that night.
Yeah.
We need to talk to your mom and dad. We want to get married. And someone said, well, what'd you do with that? And I said, well, I didn't really want her to get married that young. And I didn't. Steve's a little older than she is, but they had kind of grown together. And I knew from day one that Kim was going to get married and have babies.
Yeah.
And keep house and cook and can and sew.
She's kind of like Jaden.
Well, that's just what she did.
Yeah.
Her babies were the most important thing to her. All, her dolls or her animals. I just knew that's what she was going to do. So I didn't, and we always liked Steve, and they were like two children growing together.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you asked me that, I had thought about it, and I said, today, because of some other things in the background, I would pick up your walk with God, love one another, and when searching for that special one, don't be in a hurry. But always to remember that lifespans are getting longer. That's why you don't have to be in a hurry. But most important, have similar backgrounds and similar values. And I've told my children that, and I've told some of these grandchildren right here in this house.
Yeah.
Enjoy life and grow together.
There you go.
And that's basically where I come from.
sounds
And that's told some other people that too.
some great wisdom.
Doesn't always happen, but that's what I believe in. So.
Very good wisdom. Well, thanks for.
Oh, this has been fun.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
and
think I always
don't
know you. We don't talk like this. And
No.
find out where you're from and your family and find out what's
Now,
why. And now I understand also
things.
where Danielle comes from, and it helps me understand Danielle too by understanding you.
And Danielle and Tiffany are 6 months apart.
Yeah.
Those girls, and
They
were,
spend a summer with you.
Yeah, but those girls were together when they were little too, and then they were always over at the house when they were really little, and they're just special grandchildren. Our first grandchildren.
Yeah.
And they were just special, and Aunt Rex always said, I think he had he got better at it, but he said, you have such a good relationship with your grandchildren. And it was like he wished he did. And I said, honey, you have to work at it. And you do. You have to work at spending time. But not like Jaden, since Caleb, and I think he is a little and she could see that.
Yeah.
She's drawn away from me.
Yeah.
Because she was really quite close. She called me Gigi. We had fun together, but she just backs off. I go over and put my arms around her and try to draw her, but she's just going away. But Caleb, first thing he did, he came to me before he went to his grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how Caleb is. He's just so much more outgoing. He is. He's more outgoing.
You've done a wonderful job with your kid.
Oh, thank you.
And it takes two to tango.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the great interview. It was really good.
But don't embarrass me with my children. I mean, take something out if you feel it. I don't want anything to offend.
I don't think you said anything offensive. That was good. I love the talking about the store. I didn't know you grew up in a store. And look at, you grew up in a store working in a retail setting, and you end up retiring in a retail setting.
And my father never worked for anyone but himself.
It's obvious that your father and mother, their business acumen is right on. You didn't tell me about your brother. I know your brother and you have separated for many years, and you had to look for your brother. Like you guys kind of grew apart.
No, we were very close. When he got married, he married a girl from the East Coast. And when he was in the Army, but he had a little. He had difficulty, I think, when Dad died with my stepmother.
Oh, yeah.
If there should have been anyone he had difficulty with, it should have been me.
Yeah.
Because the estate primarily went to my stepmother and him.
Oh.
Now, my stepmother, when she died, left it all to me. And that, I don't think he holds any resentment to that. But he had trouble with that. And then things just, I was on the West Coast, he was on the East Coast. But he did come to visit me when I lived in Missouri. And we kept contact for a long time and just lost it. Things happened to him. His wife had cancer and they sold it. He retired when he was 49. And they moved to Coral Reef, which is on the Gulf side of Florida. And I'm sure they went through, I don't know, but I'm sure they went through some hurricanes. So they moved inland and they're now in Fort Myers. And I just wanted to find him. He didn't know. Mother died Rex died in 98. Mother must have died in
99.
99, is that when she died?
I have it.
He didn't even know Mother died, because she died after Rex died.
Yeah.
And he didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
And didn't seem to care.
But he's now operating a successful limousine service.
Just for, I'm sure to keep his stepson in.
Yeah. See, like both of you are just like your mom and dad. That is not.
Well, my dad, I don't think he's ever shut down.
Yeah.
He was something going on.
Yeah.
You're pretty
Well,
good at that, Caleb.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's go
I
get-
enjoyed it, and like you say, we get to know each other.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
And of course,
You didn't say anything that's embarrassing.
well, I'm
Didn't
not
say
so much
anything.
embarrassing, but I don't want it to offend any of the children.
I
I want to
I
keep
couldn't
my,
imagine.
I want my children to hang together when I'm gone.
Oh.
I really do. I don't want, like if something would happen to me in the next few months,